Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for part one of our video series that we will be rolling out to you over the next couple of weeks. These relatively short videos are going to be covering a few items for you to be thinking about and considering while we're all stuck at home and have a little bit of extra time on our hands. I am Andrew Barninger, financial planner and partner at Personal Wealth Advisory. Again, thank you very much for joining us. And we are going to go ahead and get started talking about the CARES Act and the suspension of the required minimum distributions for 2020. This will be of particular interest to our clients who are over age 70 and a half and are taking required distributions. As many of you know, every year, once you hit age 70 and a half, now the Secure Act has changed that to age 72, you are required to pull a certain amount of money out of your IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, and inherited retirement accounts. In response to the economic situation that we are all in, those distributions are suspended for 2020. So you do not have to take that money out of your retirement account. So what will that help you do? It will help you, number one, avoid paying income tax on that distribution. Many people pull that money out simply because they have to, not because they need it. So this year, we are encouraging you to think a little extra about the way you use that money and whether or not you need to pull that money out this year, or if you can take a reduction in the amount of money that you pull, or avoid doing that completely, especially while most investment accounts are down in value this year because of the economic situation in regards to the virus. So we encourage our clients to think a little bit about that, think about your distributions, your need for the money, or if you're in a position where you don't have to take a distribution this year or can reduce it. We are very happy to talk with you about that, and we encourage you to talk with us before you make any decisions or any changes, and we can help you make the best decision for yourself and for your family. Let's talk about 529 plans for these next two topics here. Number one, this might be a good time over the next couple of months to make your 2020 529 plan contributions, whether it's for your own child or a grandchild, niece or nephew or other relative. Many people wait till around the end of the year, maybe as a holiday gift, to make 529 plan contributions. But with the market where it is at a relative low point, it may be a good time to make those contributions and get them invested now or over the next couple of months. However, before we do that, we want to take the student's time frame for using the money and think about that. If they are in high school and likely to use the money over the next 5, 6, or 7 years to pay for college, we want to be a little bit more careful about how we're investing it. Not to say that you can't do that now, but we want to be a little more strategic as we get closer to that time period when they're going to use that money. If we are talking about a younger child, maybe in middle school or even younger, now would be a great time to add to the stock holdings or the stock mutual fund holdings in their 529 plan with the goal of more growth over time and more money to use for college. So just something to think about. It might be a good year to change when you make your contribution. Just as a reminder, for 2020, each person is allowed to contribute up to $15,000. That's the gifting limit for 2020, and that is for each student. So if you have 2 grandkids, for example, you can do $15,000 for each of them. These contributions are deductible for Pennsylvania state taxes. And aside from the 2020 contributions, now is also a very good time, considering the economic and market environment, to review your investment strategy within your 529 plan and make sure that it lines up with the time frame for using that money for your student. Staying on the topic of 529 plans, let's talk a little bit about refunds from colleges. Many colleges and universities have either canceled classes or are offering them virtually in one way or another. Many students who are staying in school and taking advantage of the virtual classes. But for classes that have been canceled or students who have dropped out of school or dropped out of classes, many of those classes have been refunded. And if a portion of that refund is a refund of 529 plan contribution distributions, meaning that that 529 plan was used to pay for that class that was canceled, we want to think about that money and consider rolling that refunded class payment back into the 529 plan if that's where it came from. There's really two reasons for this. Number one, if we receive that money back from the school and don't put it back into the plan, that is considered a distribution not for education purposes. And there are two things to consider there. Number one, you will likely owe income taxes on the gains, and you will likely have a 10% tax penalty on the gains because that money was not used for a qualified education expense. So those funds can be rolled back into the 529 plan within 60 days and can be used in the future for additional classes or higher education expenses. But we just want to keep those taxes and penalties in mind as colleges are canceling classes. So that is it for our tips today. One last thing. We are encouraging our clients. We know many of you want to help out, whether it's donating to charities or helping our healthcare workers or feeling like you're doing something to help us get through this and help our community. Something you can do as we're all buying more of our household items online so that we can stay at home and not expose ourselves. Consider using Amazon Smile instead of just going straight through Amazon.com. Amazon Smile is the exact same thing as Amazon. It's the same company. But if you go to AmazonSmile.com to make your purchases that you would normally make, when you get to checkout, you can choose a charity to donate 0.5% of your purchase amount to. So Amazon will make that that charitable contribution for you on your behalf. There are many charities listed there. Most of them are larger national organizations, but you may find some that interest you or that you donate to anyway and that you want to help. So just something that sometimes gets passed over, but it's a great way to use your online shopping for the greater good. Lastly, stay tuned for our upcoming webinar on the SECURE Act. This is one of the most impactful and important changes to retirement accounts in the past couple of decades, and it kind of got glossed over during the current situation. But we want to make sure you are aware of how it may impact you and your eventual heirs of your retirement account. Some significant changes there. So we'll talk about that in May, and we will make sure that you know the date and time and how to access that webinar. We are looking forward to it. That is it for today. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. Stay safe and stay healthy in the meantime. Thank you.